didn't know, but I'm super glad to do it because I'm super passionate about BrightID and all of the things that everybody else here is working on. And I just want them to all work together and take over the world and make Web 3.0 just the web. So hoping BrightID can be a little part of that. So there have been some other discussions of identity projects, and that's awesome. BrightID is one of them in the ecosystem. We're trying to solve one really specific tiny problem, but it's huge, and that is specifically unique identity. How do you prove that a user only has one instance of themselves on an account? And we need to be able to prove this across all systems. So BrightID is an open source, decentralized way to conclude, is a user unique? Can they be validated as unique on the BrightID system? And if they can, then you could use an attestation from BrightID to any integrated other application to prove that they're unique on that underlying application. So, there could be a check mark. You get a BrightID check mark on your Twitter profile that proves that you're unique on Twitter. No one knows anything about you other than that you only have one account on Twitter. That account can say whatever you want. It could be your normal personality or something else, but you only get one. And so now everyone can have one voice on a platform. You can use it for some of these under collateralized lending platforms that are popping up, and we're really excited about that. We're talking to a variety of different folks with that, including Maple Loans, where we're actually about to get our DAO is about to get our first loan, but that's a different part of the conversation. But if you're going to have some kind of credit system for under collateralized lending, you need to have an inescapable identifier, and that's something that BrightID can provide, but it's only inescapable within that specific application. So you can have 50 different applications all relying on BrightID, but they're not tied together. They just tie back to that one individual, which is you, while preserving your privacy. Pretty cool stuff. So why do we need it? Well, so we use identity for all sorts of things in the world, but right now, most of that identity is derived from government. If I asked one of you to prove who you are, you'd probably pull out your license or your passport, and that's really the country being in charge of that. I somewhat trust my government, less and less every day, but I certainly don't trust every government across the world. That would be irresponsible. And imagine if there was real value in having one of these identities, and some bad governments could choose to make extra ones. They would choose to do that. Or they might say, oh, you ethnic minority, you don't get to have identity. I mean, they've already done that. So identity needs to be something that's available to everyone. There's hundreds of millions of people in the world that have never had any form of government identification whatsoever. Some woman in a dusty village in Malawi, she's never had a paper. Obviously she exists, she is an individual person. With a system like BrightID, the only thing that the person needs to be able to prove that they're a unique user is other people that believe in them, that know them. Everyone has other people that they know. And that is the basis of BrightID. So BrightID technology is based on using a social graph. So at this point, I want to show you guys on my phone and also encourage any of you to consider downloading BrightID. We just made a giant release this week, our V3 release. All sorts of new cool things are up and running on the app now. It is also, as of this week, on the Apple App Store for the first time. It was on test flight before, but now you can just go to the App Store and get it. It's also on Google Play, where it's been for a long time. So you can go to either store and get it. You can also go to brightid.org, and there are links there. And so what happens when you load it up? The first thing's going to happen is it's going to ask you to put a picture and a name, and I've chosen sort of my common picture and name, and really that's only so that people you're going to connect to will know who you're saying you are. So it's a name that they would recognize. It's a picture that they would recognize. It can be a picture of your cat, because we don't rely on that picture at all. It's just for you and it's just between you and your friends. And what then happens is when you want to go and connect to someone, you both have the BrightID app, you hit the big connection button, and it pops up a QR code. So someone pops up a QR code. Oh, and my friend Adam is actually on the phone. He's the guy that started BrightID. Adam, actually, can you put up your QR code? I'll do it the other way.
Yeah. Oh, I just scanned yours.
Oh, you scanned mine?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm going to hit confirm. Yeah, I'll hit confirm since you're showing your phone.
Okay, yeah. So he's going to confirm on his end. And on my end, I see, oh, is this who you meant to confirm to? So I'm going to connect to Adam. I can see he's got a lot of connections. I can see how long he's been a member. I can see how many mutual connections. So I confirm. And when I do that, and he did it on his end, we've made a two-sided connection. Behind the scenes, both of us just signed a public transaction linking our two public keys by signing with our two private keys. All that's abstracted away. Oh, hey, we got some other people showing up. Is that Peter? Adam, you want to grab Peter?
Sure.
So, and at the end, anyone that does get BrightID, if we have the time, we can make connections right here. And if we don't get it now, every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, which is 2 hours from now, we have a community call and we make connections. The interesting thing, so when we made that connection, my name and photo ended up on Adam's phone, but BrightID didn't capture them in the middle. BrightID doesn't want any of your information. We have no desire for it. All we need is that public key signature, the linking of those two public keys, which gets added to a database of all of them, and can be analyzed. And I'm going to flip over to showing my screen, assuming this. Let's see, this one. All right. Do you guys see a bunch of nodes now? I hope. Can someone confirm they see a graph full of nodes?
It says you have a poor internet connection.
That's weird. Okay.
Try once again. Actually, your video works well.
Yeah, my video should be good.
Try again.
All right, so are you seeing me or a screen now? I can't tell.
Yourself. I see you.
All right. I'm going to try this one more time to share the screen. We'll see if it works. This one, share. Oh, maybe it's if I move, hold on. Maybe it's if I move over here. How about now? Now do we see a bunch of nodes in a graph? Excellent.
I see a black screen.
You see a black screen. All right, forget this. Okay. Well, apparently I can't share things. Too bad. All right. So what I was going to say is, so right now there's about 1,000 users in the BrightID network. And right now, if you look at the graph, it's a human readable graph. You got a bunch of users, little circles connected by lines, and you can understand. You're like, okay, great. Philip's connected to those 27 people, and they're connected to these 13 people, whatnot. But we go a step further in BrightID. We came up with a different scoring algorithm. We call it group Sybil rank. It's based on Sybil rank, which is based on page rank. But what it does is it requires that users join groups. So a group is simply 3 or more interconnected people. And in BrightID, we have a threshold that you need to be connected to at least 50% plus one of the other people in a group to join. So as groups get bigger, they get harder to join. You know, the 10th person in a group needs to be connected to 6 of the existing users, 5 of the existing users when there's 9. And what that does is I wish I could show you the graph. The underlying data that you get from the groups is much denser. So you can human read the existing graph. If you look at the graph of the groups and how they interconnect with each other, it's just a gnarling ball of connection. It's something that only algorithms can start to parse out. And we found that comes up with much more accurate Sybil detection. So our system actually scores the groups, not the users. You get your score from the groups that you're part of. We're also working on a new initiative called primary groups, where each user will have to select one group that is the people they say is the people they are closest to in the entire world. And everyone can only have one. You can change it whenever you want, but you can only possibly have one, and it will mean something. It'll be interesting to see when that comes along. I want to talk a little bit about what you can do with this. Up until today, the answer has been not much. BrightID was only sort of useful within itself, but that has never been the plan. We don't think people are going to be excited to get BrightID for its own sake. They're going to be excited to get it because of what it allows them to do. This is sort of your ticket to a new world, your ticket to a place where everyone can prove that they're digitally unique. And our very first integration partner is starting today. Right now, they're trying to code up the last bits, and it's called Burn Signal. And it's an Ethereum signaling mechanism. And I'm going to get into exactly how it works in a minute, but first I want to tell you what they had to do is they had to create something that they call Bright Ethereum. So this is a service that lets you link an Ethereum address, anyone you want, to your BrightID, such that you can prove that, well, that Ethereum address is owned by a unique person. So if you go to ethereum.brightid.org, and I wish I could show it to you, you get a beautiful screen that says, hey, enter an Ethereum address, and you can link it to your BrightID. Once you've made that link, then you can go over to a service like Burn Signal and utilize that service. And what Burn Signal is, it's an Ethereum signaling mechanism. It lets you basically perform effectively Twitter polls that maybe could mean something. The way you vote in them is actually by burning ether. And at the beginning, it's going to be very small amounts of ether, and it works quadratically. So lots of people think the Gitcoin grant model, the CLR model. A lot of people taking small financial actions has more weight than one person taking a giant financial action. So this is a way that perhaps the community could signal to, say, the core developers what they want. Maybe the community would really think that Amin should be allowed to be a core developer. You know, I'm in favor of that. And they can burn a little bit of ETH. You know, they can burn one gwei to say, sure, I don't think anyone's going to listen to this signal, but whatever. I want to say something, so I'm going to burn a gwei. And then someone else comes along and they're like, well, I still don't think anyone's going to listen, but I would like this poll to flip, so I'm going to burn 2 gwei. And it kind of goes on and on. As more people actually interact with it, the signal value grows. And then at some point, it's actually worth spending real money to sway it, because now people are listening because more people are paying attention. We'll see how it goes. They've got cool plans of additional things they can do in the future. There's good reasons why the ether actually gets burned instead of donated to something, although there will be other models. But I encourage anyone that has any interest to go to burnsignal.io, and they can check it out. It is literally launching like as we speak. Another thing I wanted to tell you guys about that we just launched in this newest release is called Social Recovery. So it is now possible to move your account between devices and get it back if you lose it. And what you do is you choose some of your connections as trusted connections, and a group of them together can reactivate your account. There's no central party in that. It is simply your people saying, yep, that's your account, and you can get it back. We've also added a backup service, which currently is centralized, but we hope other people will build other solutions. Everything about BrightID is meant to be completely open source and decentralized and radically transparent. We encourage anyone that goes, oh, it'd be really cool if you guys did this. Great, come build that. BrightID is just trying to be sort of a canvas that people can build upon. So please come build upon it. Yeah, so I want to leave some time for questions, and also if anyone wants to make connections live, it's super cool. So
Making connections means that, I think my first exposure to BrightID was at previous DEF CON, around status hackathon or so. Right now I technically have a BrightID identity, but I have no idea how to recover it because I don't remember people who I connected to that time. Yeah.
So let me
anyone
explain
have
how to recover. So I can explain real quick how to do the recovery thing. So on your phone, first you'll need to upgrade to the most recent version. That's one, is you need to upgrade. So go back to whatever Play Store you got it from. Then you'll see a notification at the bottom. And if you click that notification, it'll say, choose your trusted connections to back up your BrightID. You do that. You pick your connections. I'm going to pick Philip and my sister. And let's see if I can find her in here. And then I'm going to pick my wife. And then, okay, so there's my sister. There's my wife. Sorry that I'm not sharing this, but as I'm doing it. But yeah, so I picked my people. I picked my 3 people on the backup screen, and then I hit next. And let's see, and then I enter a password that will encrypt the backup data. This is just backing up names and photos, really. And as Philip said, for now that's on a centralized service that we provide, but it's encrypted, AES encrypted with your password. And the only way to even find it is to know the password. So that's, it's hard to brute force it because of that. But anyways, it's just names and photos that are being backed up. It's nothing like someone could steal your BrightID or something. So anyways, you back those up, you enter your password, and then after you've done that, then you're good to go. And then if you need to recover, then what you do is on a fresh device, you start up BrightID again. There's always 2 options on a fresh device when you're first starting up. And one is create a BrightID and the other is recover a BrightID. You just hit recover. It'll ask you it'll generate another QR code, but this is a special one. The people that you connect to need to be the trusted connections. They will know that that's what they're doing. And yeah, they just make the connection. 2 of them make a connection to you, and then you get everything back. Your BrightID is back. So that's how it works.
And right now,
I figured how it works. I had a BrightID on test flight, which is no longer on my phone at all. So technically, even if I don't remember if I had any trusted people
you missed the opportunity because we didn't have social recovery yet, and so you weren't able to create the backup, and so now you've got to start over.
You start over.
So that's not ideal, but you start over right now, and we'll start connecting to you. Yeah. And then what we can do is we can go back. We can go back to the old.
All right, I'm gonna get it. Once I click over here, can you move it to the right a little bit? There you go. All right, there you go. You have no connections. All right, you're a super sketchy person to connect with, but.
Yeah, what we would do is since she's since we know that she had an old account, if you happen to have that old connection in your phone, you can flag it. There's these little flag icons. And so you can flag it and say that this is a duplicate because we know the old one she's not using anymore. And then if a couple people flag it, then it gets removed from the groups that those people are in, so that the groups no longer give that old connection a score.
Yeah, and so I could flag you as a duplicate, deceased, or fake, and if multiple people do that, you'll get kicked from all the groups that you're in.
Yeah, you get kicked from the groups, which give you the score.
All right, Peter, you trying to get in this? Let me get you in a second. Peter, can you move to the right a little bit?
Oops.
There you go. All right, got it.
Oh,
Okay.
that's you.
There you go. You ready? You just click the big blue button.
Yeah, so now I think Pete's ready to create a group. Let's show how that works. That way you can get your score and maybe get today. Yeah, that's enough to do a group. You just need 2 other connections. So you're welcome to add me if you want to create. Yep. Welcome to add me.
And it works just fine in this virtual setting. It's much more fun in person. It's fun to see people do it live because they actually really enjoy the process.
Yeah, in a virtual group this big, you kind of have to do breakout sessions to make it work. But in a group setting, yeah, it's just everyone's connecting. You can kind of do it all at once. Everyone's connecting to everyone else. It's kind of fun.
Also worth noting that all of these QR codes, they're single use. So if 2 people were to scan the same person, that would only work out for one of them. FYI. Yeah, so
I'm gonna check my groups.
So Peter, did you start a group?
Yeah, I created a group.
Okay, let me find this.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Okay,
so he created a group, and then in my group section, I say, hey, do you want to join that group? And I say yes. And once 2 co-founders have accepted that group, it gets created and starts working towards being able to have a score.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, every 5 minutes, the scores are updated. So in about 5 minutes, look again at the home screen and see where you're at.
Wow, I missed one really important thing. So really important about BrightId. So group syllable rank is the way that we're currently analyzing the graph. But what really sets BrightId apart for me is that we don't think that's the only way to analyze the graph. So right now there's only one node, but we're in a system of nodes, and anyone will be welcome to be part of that.
Yeah, actually, that was part of the release, was being able to accept other nodes into the system. So we're ready to add other nodes as of now. So sorry to interrupt. Go on.
Yeah, sorry. So what's going to happen is those nodes are going to come to consensus on the raw connection data. They're not coming to consensus on their analysis of that data. So each node has the potential to run whatever analysis they want and then come up with their opinion of whether any given user or group is unique. So right now we call verifications. You'll see these three little icons here. So those are 3 different verification stickers. So 3 different, slightly different analyses say that I'm verified unique, and any node could create its own selection criteria and then offer that to the community, saying, hey, if you need an answer for uniqueness on BrightId, you could listen to me. So imagine every person on this call ran a node. We all know some special information. For example, maybe you decide to say everyone in your immediate family, you're just going to mark off as totally human because you personally know them and you're sure. I wouldn't be sure about your family, but you could be sure. So all of our nodes would have slightly different analyses. And over time, we can build up this sort of this meta-analysis of all the different opinions to come to a meta opinion. It's a squishy thing we're trying to solve, but it actually does have a binary answer in real life. Either you are a unique human or you're not. Answering the question, squishy, squishy, but it is a binary thing. So we hope to work with anyone and everyone on every aspect of this. It is as open source, decentralized, and radically transparent as you can be. We are run by a DAO. We made that DAO into a LAO so that governments could understand it, and then we gave that LAO to a nonprofit called Hedge for Humanity that intends to give its resources to everyone on Earth. So if this matters, it's ultimately, the economics of it, to the extent it has them, will get shared back with all of humanity because this was a tool for humanity. And I'll also quickly just plug out. Yeah, Peter.
How about this Ethereum.BrightId.org? Do you have some kind of bridges to nodes and to different kinds of nodes that you mentioned?
Yeah, so the way that works is Ethereum.BrightId.org is just creating a registry on the BrightID nodes of that allows BrightIDs to be mapped to Ethereum addresses. But there is an Ethereum smart contract that we have, and so for the case of Ethereum.BrightId.org, the way that it's built now and the way Burn Signal uses it is it just looks up the Ethereum registry on the or mapping on the BrightID node, and then gets that back. It says, okay, who are the unique people that have gone through Ethereum.BrightId.org? So they're not using our BrightID smart contract for that. They're just using BrightID nodes, but you can also use the smart contract, and that way, if you need your answer about whether someone is unique from a smart contract rather than from a BrightID node. So let's say that that you're doing the heavy lifting in the smart contract or something, then that's available too. So you can also register with the smart contract.
So and the information, is there a cycle of updating of the information? I mean, what is the period of updating the smart contract?
Right. So so the smart contract is the way it works. And let me share a document that goes into a little more detail with this. But the way it works is a user, when they go through the deep link for something like Ethereum.BrightId.org, when they go through the deep link and it opens up in their phone, one of the things that could happen is that it could create a signed response that it can then give back that says, yes, I authorize this link, this mapping between my BrightID and this Ethereum address, and then it sends it back. So that can be, and then it sends that to a BrightID node. The BrightID node signs it, and then the Ethereum smart contract knows which BrightID nodes are trusted and knows how to check those signatures. And so what it does at that point is anyone can send it to the smart contract. The user could send it. So right now the BrightID mobile app isn't capable of doing that, but it is capable of sending it on to somewhere else. It could send it to a BrightID node. It could send it back to the app. And then that app or the node could go ahead and submit that to the Ethereum smart contract. And at that point, it gets added to the registry in the Ethereum smart contract. So yeah, let me find that document and share it with you. It has kind of the steps of how you would do that.
So you are doing with you're signing with your phone, or you are doing the so yeah, you are fetching the information from BrightID node to Ethereum by yourself, by your phone.
Yeah, so there's two steps that are involved. The first step is you sign the fact that you authorized that link. That gets sent to the BrightID node. The BrightID node knows how to check that signature and say, okay, this this is real. This person really authorized this. Then at that point, that BrightID node signs it, and then it gives it back to the user, and then the user at that point can share it with an application. They could do it themselves, but anyone can submit that at that point back to the Ethereum smart contract, which then can see that yes, it was a real BrightID node that said that this verification happened, and then it adds that person to the registry.
And one last thing, I think our time's basically up, is it's just that we're eager to integrate with anybody that needs this problem solved. So if you need your users to be to know that you only have one instance in your system, please reach out to us. Telegram, our website, Discord, whatever. Be glad to see if we can work together. And I think that's our time.
Yeah, actually, we're trying to figure out what to do in terms of where are the next speakers and where should we place them. So you can just continue communicating here. There also was one question in YouTube, like, is there a way to use BrightID without a smartphone at the moment?
That is in the roadmap, but no, there's no way to do it. What you need is an application. Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah, David's running tons.
Yeah, because you have it running on your son's tablet, for instance. So yeah. Yeah,
right. You can run it. You can totally run it on an iPad. Runs just fine. Yeah, both my kids they don't have phones, so they're little kids, so they have it on their iPads. And our developers run emulators on their computer to create all sorts of fictitious accounts.
Right. Yeah, that don't get verified, by the way.
And then, just go with the laptop to people and scan them and so on, from like browser tab or something maybe, where you just exchange. So as we all have to sit at home at the moment and do not go outside, maybe there is another way to scan people through the tabs. I don't know. We just connect with them on Telegram and then give them
Telegram works.
Scan each other, something like this.
I made some Telegram connections yesterday. That right now, something that we're using to kind of enforce a high bar for these connections to make sure that we avoid the Facebook situation where you have a bunch of notifications in your inbox like, oh, so-and-so wants to connect to you, so-and-so wants to connect to you, and you just click a bunch of yeses, and it kind of opens the door for social engineering attacks. Instead of doing that, we have a higher bar that the connections have to be done synchronously, so the person has to be expecting it right at that moment, but you can still do it through Telegram. There's a link that you can copy and paste into Telegram. You can also do the screenshot method on Telegram. I did that the other day. So those work. And we're exploring other methods. One thing that we want to do to actually allow kind of an asynchronous connection with a higher bar is we want to, let's say, give someone a fixed number of these requests that they can send out. So let's say you have 5, and you can only ever have 5 out at any one time. And then if the other person doesn't accept, it just sits there, and they don't. Maybe they take a long time to expire, something like that. So that avoids these kind of spamming attacks where someone will just put out hundreds of connections and just kind of fish around and hope that they catch someone. So we're exploring ways to do asynchronous connections as well. But the point of this is the reason why we're not just using like the Twitter graph or the Facebook graph is because in our experiments we realized that those graphs are just not high quality enough. And so we started over with a higher bar for making connections and cryptographically signed connections as well. And then added this, we found in our research that adding the enforcing groups, like forcing people to select or join groups, adds yet another level of just really useful information to the graph that makes the analysis much better. So adding all these things, there can be many ways to connect it in the future that we haven't even explored yet. It could be through another app, and maybe you don't even realize necessarily that you're doing it. A BrightId integrated app might allow, just in your normal way that you're interfacing with it, could generate connections as long as you authorize the app to do that. So yeah, there's lots to be explored with that. We expect there to be lots of different front ends to this, like Philip was talking about, lots of different analysis methods. We're just kind of trying to provide this base platform that we can all build on to solve this civil problem and be able to have unique IDs that people can take around with them that says, I'm a human.
Hey, so actually, if we want to continue conversation here, we can continue, because the next talk was moved to the House of DAOs, and this thread, like this specific conference, is pretty much free for the next 1.5 hours. So if you want to just chat around, continue talking about identities, we can just stay here and continue this wonderful conversation. Or we, I don't know, can move to other stages, threads, or whatever you want to do. You decide.
I just want to make sure that everyone
have any kind of other questions.
Yeah, questions are good, and also if anyone wants to keep making connections, this is a good place.
That sounds like fun. Let's make connections.
Yeah, make a few connections before we all head off to other places. Okay, I don't have you yet, so I'll do that.
Now we're connected.
Sweet.
Any other lurkers want to get in on this? It's so fun.
All right.
Come again. How do I get to bigger score? So there's connections, groups, and score.
Yeah, it comes from a group. Yeah, so until you get your first group, you're not going to be able to get any of these verification stickers. So yeah, make 2 connections. I think you've already got 2. Go to groups, just hit the groups tab on the bottom, and then co-found a group with 2 people, and let them know that you're doing it. So we do want to have that the notifications notify you about co-founding a group, but that's not set up yet in this version. That'll come in a later version. So just tell the people, hey, I'm co-founding a group with you, so they know to expect that, and then they'll go find it.
Okay, so I'm co-founded a group with you and Philip.
Great, good choice. And it's quite possible that other people that are here with us now will also be able to see this group once we co-found it with you. All they have to do is be connected to 2 of us, and then you'll see that group, and they can join it too.
Get connections. Oh, hey, look, we got a score for Peter.
Sweet.
I guess I'm still waiting for Paulina to confirm.
A connection or a group?
A connection.
Oh, okay. You might want to start over. It's really easy to start
Paulina, who
over.
are you trying to connect to? Jonathan, pull back a little bit. You're out of focus. What a great, the developer, our mobile developer, did an amazing job on the QR codes, especially when you do it in person. They are super fast, responsive, and you can like do it at an angle from a distance. I don't know how he made them work so well, but
yeah, I worked on making them as I guess compressed as possible, so that if you try to put too much data in a QR code, then we really minimize the data so that they'd be smaller QR codes and easier to read.
Can you tell a bit about the DAO? Not the
Sure.
DAO, but BrightId.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Philip.
So our we have an interesting DAO structure. It starts at the top sort of mothership DAO is called bmain, BrightId main, and all of our DAOs are based on voting. So right now we have 13 members of our DAO. All voting is done by majority decision of the existing members, including the membership itself. So we would vote new members in and out by a vote of the group. We have this, the way it works is you need to reach 50% plus one consensus for things to pass. We call this our slow DAO because if you don't get half the people to vote on something promptly, over 60 days, time would go through, and then at the end, it would just be majority of whoever voted. But that could be a really slow process. It could take 60 days, but at least it will eventually come to a conclusion. We also have what we call sub-DAOs or fast DAOs. They kind of work as departments. So we have a development, research, an administrative DAO. These are fast DAOs. They have fewer members, and they have the same 50% majority to pass things, but the time period is 2 days. If you're a manager of a fast DAO, you know that you have active responsibility for.
I can't see people for some reason. Non-Connor, your nickname. Can you please mute yourself?
So we can do things
write a private message, I guess.
that need to happen really quickly, and also bigger things that can take time. So, for example, what we're doing at our DAO is the treasury is controlled by bmain, and then once a month we vote to send smaller amounts down to all the sub DAOs that then they can dictate as they like. If heaven forbid one of those sub DAOs got co-opted and stopped doing what bmain wanted it to, it would stop sending funds down to the sub DAO, and we could fork it away and create a new DAO to perform that sort of departmental task.
Philip,
So
you might want to mute non-Connor.
Yeah, I'm trying to have a rights for that, but I don't seem to be able to do it.
Right. Guy is the moderator.
Come again? No?
Hi.
So who asked the question about the DAOs? Was that Peter? I think it's Peter, right?
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions? I'll actually share some documents on our DAO. We have a constitution that was ratified last month, and a couple of other documents. And in those documents, you can also find links to the Aragon DAOs, which you can just browse to and follow along and see what's going on. Everything's public.
Oh, is it based on Aragon?
Yes.
Yeah, so these are Aragon DAOs, but we also just recently started a BrightId colony, and so this is kind of an interesting mix that we're creating here. Is we plan to use this colony for bounties, and so what happens is some of the funds from the DAO come into the colony, and we have our own kind of reward system called subs that we have in BrightId, and you can read about BrightId subs or subscriptions too. But we can use those as rewards for bounties, and then Colony's really good at being able to take suggestions on what people would like to see in BrightId, turn those into tasks, assign reward to the tasks. And so we're leveraging both of those types of things. Aragon, on the other hand, is really good at having distributed management where you can do things like democratic voting or voting by stake. In our case, it's the one person, one vote. But that works really well on Aragon, and then Colony works really well for doing task-related stuff. And so we're using both. And the Colony is just a brand new thing for us that we hope to have a lot of fun with. But the DAO, the Aragon DAOs that we created, that we've had those. I think we've had those for about 6 months now, and they're just now starting to get, as of like December, it really kicked in where they were starting to move large amounts of money. We're the only DAO that I know of that has taken a loan and repaid it. We do a lot with our DAO. Very heavy users of the Aragon system right now.
Adam.
So you have different. Okay.
My question is, if you start doing client projects and you get like regular client projects to work on, how do you handle revenue sharing or like internally? Like I know you use Colony to create bounties. Would you imagine that internally you'd also fund people that are in the core team through Colony, or do you imagine that there is a funding model built into your Aragon DAO or Forgo?
Good question. So it flows the other way. You can answer that Philip, but basically it flows the other way. It flows from Aragon to Colony. But go ahead, Philip.
Yeah. So we spent a really long time thinking about how we were going to fund BrightID because of what we're trying to build. We're really trying to build a public good. We're trying to build a protocol for humanity. And if it sort of meets our wild dreams and becomes sort of essential technology for all of the world, it needs to last indefinitely and have perpetual funding. So in the end, we came up with a model where every user needs to be sponsored into the network to be fully validated and able to use applications. And that requires that effectively someone somewhere pays one DAI in order for them to get validated. That's one DAI per user per lifetime. So someone purchases a sponsorship token, which provides funding to the DAO. We believe that the money that could be raised by that small fee, that sort of small tax on the system, would be enough, sort of at all levels. It could raise $10 billion, and then even when everyone's on it, then it still has a maintenance amount of new users coming on. Right now, there's about 150 million births a year. So there would always be something to support the core development of the system.
Yeah. Could you talk about Hedge for Humanity and I guess the cool UBI stuff that can be done with BrightID, and also how that can be used as a refund?
Yeah. So Hedge for Humanity is a 501c3 nonprofit that we created with the founders of the Mana original UBI cryptocurrency. And the idea is we're going to try to create a non-sovereign wealth fund. So we want to be able to bring in assets of any type. It could be stock, it could be intellectual property, it could be land, natural resources, you name it. Anyone can send value in, and all of the value of that will be held for the benefit of all of humanity and regularly distributed to all people. So imagine a sort of a crypto dividend that gets sent out to everybody, and hopefully of a significant amount someday. One of the things that will be in their coffers to send out is the excess revenue from BrightID. We don't actually believe it would cost $10 billion, not even close, to serve all the people in the world with this system. So the additional money brought in that doesn't actually go to paying expenses, it's not owed to anyone, so it gets to go to everyone. No one, including Adam or I, owns equity in BrightID. It's why we sort of couldn't go down a VC route for raising capital, is we were not willing for anyone to own this. It's too valuable of a tool. So we've also created a way, because we need funding now to bootstrap the thing, we've created this interesting subscription model for early people that are willing to invest their money early into the system. Basically, if you pay $1 today, you can secure a 6-year growing stream of sponsorships. And any person or application that believes this might be useful to you or to anyone else in the future should buy the subscriptions now and get yourself a massive discount on the usage of this system. The benefit to the DAO is we get the money now, which we desperately need to build it out. And the benefit to you is you get lots and lots of really cheap usage of the system. But we make it come out over time and accelerate over time, such that no one's kind of crushing. We don't want anyone to like dump heavily on the market and make you be the only place that anyone would buy from. So it's a complicated model, but I encourage you to check out the sponsorship and subscription model. Adam put some links, I believe. Did you? No, they're not there. Adam, could you drop those links?
Yeah, I'll put some links for sponsorships and subscriptions, sure.
But short answer, if this works out, you can make 252 times your money, which is an absurd return, but also a limited one. You can't make 1 million times your money, because no one should make 1 million times their money for anything. Like, yes, money is valuable in putting capital early is valuable to a project, but not a million times. It's just not. So, we chose something that we tried to be really exciting for someone that did care about making an amazing return, but at some point, okay, that's all you get. And your actions all help BrightID and don't get in the way. So even if someone put in a whole bunch of money, they don't get control. All control is ceded to the DAO. Having a large financial interest in this gives you no power. It might give you some influence if you can, use it to help convince people of your opinions, but no actual power. Nor do Adam.
Yeah, it gives you the ability. If you have a large app that uses BrightID, it gives you the ability to sponsor many people, which can be very useful.
Right, and we imagine so every user is going to need to get sponsored, and the way we see the flow going is most apps we imagine will sponsor their own users. Then sort of the later apps, they'll sponsor some of the new users, and then they'll already find, some people that want to come to their app already have BrightID and are already sponsored, and great. They don't need to be sponsored again. Once you're in once, you've got full access to everything for life. And we strongly believe that if we do this even close to right, the value of being in the network will dramatically exceed the $1 cost that someone needs to pay. We say someone because we imagine it could theoretically be the user, but we don't actually expect it to be the user. It's much easier if it's an application doing it.
So is it working right now? Sponsorship. Do we need to pay this deposit this $1 to start using our scores?
Yeah, but right now, Ethereum.brightid.com, so Bright Ethereum is the only thing. Although we're hoping through Hedge for Humanity to launch Citizens Income Experiment soon. Both of those contexts have sponsorships available. So you don't need to worry about it. You're good. From the user standpoint, you're going to get sponsored. So when a new app comes out that maybe anticipates a fair amount of user growth, it would be nice if they would buy some sponsorships too. If not, they can basically send users to a different app. So you kind of have two choices. You can kind of play the rich app side or the poor app side. You can say, okay, I'm going to be the rich app. All the users are going to come to me. So you're basically paying an acquisition fee for the users to come to you. Or you can play the poor app side where you say, okay, I'm just going to tell my users to go over to this other app first and get sponsored and then come back and use my app.
Yeah, okay, got it. Yep.
Yeah, and we also, so like Hedge for Humanity will have a bunch of sponsorships. So we hope it will never be a burden for someone to get sponsored. Most sort of applications that have money from the Western world would be glad to pay $1 to get a user. It's a pretty low user acquisition cost. If there's some person in a poor country that doesn't have some company that's willing to fund that, the nonprofit can fund them in.
Thanks for the answer. Much of my interest is on the worker co-op side of DAOs and trying to make sustainable worker communities that find ways of working with client revenue, and that goes to the rest of the group in a fair and just way.
Awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed reading the Platform Cooperatives book. That's sort of my information about that. Other things, we've gone dramatically over our time. I appreciate you guys staying and listening, participating.
Yeah, thank you. Like, you're the only one that went on for so much longer. I felt the need to move the other talk to the other room because I loved it. Like, most people asked a few questions and that's it. But you guys just kept going. Fuck, that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, love talking about it.
Yeah, there's actually 4 more minutes before the next talk.
I think there's no talk here for about an hour.
Oh yeah, the next talk is in the House of DAOs. But I do have one question about BrightId. You said you could possibly work with 3box. Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, so I've been talking with the 3box founders, and we've been exploring together ways for integration. And I think what makes the most sense is so they're trying to build a social network through interactions between users, and it's possible to do messaging through 3box. So I think it's also by extension possible to sign a message in a way that could translate in that could carry over to BrightId, and you could thereby use your 3box interactions to strengthen your BrightId connections. So that's one way that they suggested to us, and we're exploring other ways. I mean, just having a sticker or a badge that says, "Yes, I'm a unique human," according to BrightId. That's a nice little feature too.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and really, any project that wants to integrate is welcome to. We don't view ourselves as competing with anything. The specific problem that we're trying to solve is such a small one.
Yeah, but it's crucial.
Right, totally crucial. But it's such in the way that we're trying to do it is so limited that we really don't view there is competition. So please figure out a way to work together. Even if you're if you're in the identity space, great, we can still work together. If you're in the DeFi space, let's work together. If you're in the Web 2, Web 3, doesn't matter. This is just a thing that needs to get figured out by the community. We just want to help the community do that.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things that came out of ETH Denver was being able to talk to. I hacked on a team that was working on a basically it's similar to Gitcoin grants. It's a SLR fund, but unique identity rather than GitHub profiles.
Yes.
And so one of the
things
that came out from our advisors to our hackathon
Thank
project,
you all for coming to
which was very white and
just a bit about myself. My name is Dandelion,
Weiji,
and I'm the temporary benevolent dictator of
they're working on something, and we're contributing actually to something called Macy, which is a kind of a way of preventing collusion using zero knowledge proof. But one of the interesting things that came out of our talking was Barry said, "Hey, you've got this graph that's public. I think that there's a way that we can make it so that this graph doesn't have to be publicly out there. You can actually make and see that those connections exist without revealing the graph." And he said, "Let me draw something up really quick." And so they presented something in the Ethereum Magicians Forum that it's called Blind Find, and it allows through zero knowledge proofs to say, yes, I'm provably connected to someone over here, but I don't need to show you the whole graph to show you that that's true. And so you can take algorithms that work on the whole graph and adapt them through this process so that they can work without revealing that graph to all the node operators, which is what we currently do. Because there have been people who have raised concerns about that. Even though we don't put meaningful identifiers on other than BrightIDs on that graph, the fact is there's so many ways that things can get leaked or things can get mapped onto other graphs or whatever, that information isn't. We can't make guarantees of that being anonymous. But I think it's really interesting that some of the top cryptographers in the world are interested in looking into ways to keep that graph anonymous, which I think would be really, really cool if we can pull that off and still have a really solid anti-civil algorithm running on top of it.